Hello, and welcome to the Times Core video lecture on how to give a presentation. Today, we're going to look at the Teen Times issue number 557, Debate/Hot Issues, and the title is Taxing Air Fuel. Is it a must? I'm your instructor, Vincent, and let's go through this right now. First, let's summarize the article. First point, climate change in our environment. We all know that global warming is changing our environment. It is causing extreme weather conditions all over the world. It is causing very, very hot weather and very, very cold weather. There are more natural disasters than ever before because of global warming. And this is due to the rapid change in our environment. Let's go to the second point, carbon emissions and pollution. Human activity is harming our world. Carbon emissions are caused by machines used by humans, such as cars and planes. Recently, a lot of people have been blaming the aviation industry, which is the topic of the article, but let's go through that later. The third point, natural resources. What source creates carbon emissions and other pollutants? Well, there are natural resources. The burning of fossil fuels like oil and coal. These are our natural resources. It is a well-known fact that there is a limited supply of fossil fuels. Even knowing this, people are still digging them up and depending on them. They are dependent on them. All of these three concepts are tied, these first three concepts are tied together. People dig up natural resources like oil and coal. They burn them through machines, causing carbon emissions. And this is what causes climate change in our environment and, as we all know, global warming. The fourth point, global taxes. Various groups of individuals want to impose a tax on those who are polluting the earth. And people are blaming the airline companies, aviation industry. People think that aviation is one of the biggest factors in carbon emissions. Many international groups and organizations, like the United Nations and the European Union, are pushing for a tax on the aviation industry. Many airline companies was first formally charged at the Kyoto Protocol. Now, knowing this, let's go to the next slide. Let's go through my first point. Not all corporations are evil, and I'm talking about the airline companies. Let's compare aircraft emissions to car emissions, automobile emissions. There are a greater number of cars than there are airplanes. Almost everybody drives a car. Almost every family has at least one car. If you don't have a car, then you take the taxi or take public transportation. As a whole, these vehicles, these automobiles, cause much more pollution than airplanes do. Plus, let's look at the second fact, new engines. Airline companies are creating and making new engines that are more energy efficient. They are already trying to help the environment to do their part. Also, the aviation industry is also tightening their pollution standards. They're restricting how much emissions they are causing, how much they are polluting in their environment. Airline companies are always looking ways to cause less pollution. Let's look at my fourth point. Because of these three things I just talked about, or these past two things, there has been a significant reduction in pollution. Airline companies are seeing that there's a steady decrease in how much pollution they are causing. This is thanks to my fifth point, technology. Technology is advancing at a rapid rate. There are electric cars and solar cars that we know of. If technology advances further and it goes into aviation, a few years from now, planes can run on electricity or solar power, producing close to zero emissions. Let's take a look at my next point, taxes. Really? I believe that a tax on fuel on the aviation industry is very unnecessary. Airline companies are already trying to reduce their emissions. The money from aviation taxes will go to help the environment, but airline companies are already trying to help the environment. They already have an incentive to use different sources of energy. Why? Because of the soaring prices of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are becoming extremely expensive, and the price per barrel is getting higher and higher. By using an alternative resource, companies would be saving a lot of money in the long term. This is all supply and demand. If there is a high demand for something that is very low on supply, then people selling the product can sell the price as high as they want. This is why oil, coal, these things are so expensive. Third point, this is probably the most relevant to you. If taxes are imposed, airline companies will make less profit. This means flights and fees will be more expensive. Maybe there will be even more fees. Because of this, if this happens, travelers have to pay more, a lot more, to go traveling. Do you want to pay more to go on vacation? I assume you wouldn't. Let's go to the fourth point. Taxes would have little impact in the price of fuels. Officials are trying to tax the wrong people. Aviation is acting as a scapegoat for the harm in our environment. Other industries should be taxed, which brings me to my fifth point. They should be redirected. Taxes should be redirected to companies that are causing deforestation, like logging companies. They cause mass pollution and take away the homes of wildlife animals. Car industries are the biggest factor in carbon emissions. Taxes on automobile industries should be imposed rather than taxes on aviation companies. Companies that drill for Earth's natural resources are harming the Earth as well because they are the root of the problem. Let's take a look at my last point. The rich get poorer and the poor get even poorer. My first point, spending stimulates. Spending stimulates the economy. Rich people supply jobs and employ others. The more rich people spend money, the more they help businesses, the more money businesses make, especially entrepreneurs. Let's look at the second point, tax evasion problems. Just like prohibition, if there is a way to take a shortcut, people will. People will find a way to avoid these taxes somehow. And this has been happening throughout history, throughout even our time today. My third point, governments need to appropriate money, right? Dollar and won, whatever it may be, even euros. Governments need to be spending funds more properly and on things that are more important. Yes, the environment is very important, but education and welfare are problems too that need to be fixed. Aggressive taxation equals socialism. Many people think that socialism is a great thing, but balancing and redistributing wealth is not always a good thing. Not all people deserve the same thing. And my last point, punishing the successful. We should reward those with skills and talent, not punishing them by imposing harsh taxes. If there was no incentive in life, then people would not be successful. Not everybody deserves the same thing, right? This is my presentation, and I hope that you believe that taxation on the aviation industry is wrong.